Figures indicate a continuing trend in recent years, a concerning situation blamed on declining agricultural yields, climate change, and internal conflicts, triggering massive population displacements. Tourism in Zambia is on the rebound after suffering major losses during the COVID-19 pandemic, according to a survey by the Ministry of Tourism. The ministry found that the sector operated at only 15% capacity, resulting in millions of dollars in lost revenue and in hundreds of jobs. The study said the lifting of travel restrictions has brought a 70% increase in visitors in the country's tourism capital, Livingstone. Wildlife officials in South Africa are dealing with a new problem: the trafficking of succulent plants that don't need much watering. Many types of succulents in South Africa's semi-arid Karoo region are now critically endangered because of a sharp rise in illegal harvesting for international markets, with China being the main destination. Kate Bartlett reports from the Little Karoo, South Africa.
This nature reserve is part of the succulent Karoo biome, a globally recognized biodiversity hotspot that stretches from Namibia into South Africa's Western Cape province. Many of the rare plant species that grow here are found nowhere else on Earth. Over the past 4 years, South African succulents have become part of a rampant illegal trade.
In our experience, the levels of poaching that we're seeing now is unprecedented.
The uptick in succulent poaching has led the International Union for the Conservation of Nature to update the number of the plants on its red list of threatened species.
These plants are being pushed to the verge of extinction, and those plants won't return by themselves, not in our lifetime anyways.
We've never seen this volume of plants that's been harvested from the wild. And some of these plants are hundreds and hundreds of years old, and so we're losing, thousands of years of plant growth.
Succulent poaching is often run by the same criminal syndicates involved in endangered wildlife trafficking, according to WWF South Africa, which is coordinating efforts to combat the poaching. Some 242,000 succulents were seized by law enforcement last year alone. Botanists are trying to save the confiscated endangered plants. Experts say trafficking skyrocketed during the pandemic, with people shut up at home and influencers who dubbed themselves plant moms and dads, posting videos on social media about their houseplants, sparking a trend.
I think we're getting into the age of having plants in our houses, and we want something cute and something easy growing, something that's not going to die. Succulents are very resilient.
Most of the poached plants are intended for the Chinese market, according to officials from Cape Nature, a South African government body. Many of the illegal succulents are sent overseas through the mail, disguised as food items or even children's toys. They then put up for sale on platforms like China's WeChat. While the international syndicates are making large profits, the impoverished locals doing the poaching get paid little.
The succulent Karoo is a very vast, very arid landscape, and there are very limited economic opportunities.
Adrian Robertson is a farmer trying to convince others not to cooperate with the syndicates.
I'm trying to chat to the farm workers because that's what the guys are using. They're using local guys who know the areas really well.
The conservationists can only hope all their efforts will pay off, because if these plants, a huge food source for pollinators, were to disappear, it would be devastating for the entire Karoo ecosystem. Kate Bartlett for VOA News, the Little Karoo, South Africa.
The United States and China spent the weekend in Singapore pointing fingers at each other. The two countries' top military leaders accused one another of ratcheting up tensions in the Taiwan Strait at separate speeches in a summit meant to highlight unity. As VOA's Arash Basadi reports, the heightened rhetoric follows increasingly tense training maneuvers in the region.
First, there was a Chinese fighter jet performing an in-air maneuver over the South China Sea late last month, rocking a U.S. reconnaissance aircraft in a move the United States called unnecessarily aggressive. Then, a few days later, in the Taiwan Strait, which separates Taiwan from continental Asia, a Chinese destroyer performed a maneuver bringing it close to a U.S. warship. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin called the move irresponsible, and the U.S. Navy called it unsafe. And thus, the stage was set for a war of words between the United States and China at this year's Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore. The meeting is an annual gathering of the world's military brass and is a platform for networking and embracing de-escalation. Instead, both countries' military leaders exchanged barbs over recent events in the South China Sea.
The People's Republic of China continues to conduct an alarming number of risky intercepts of U.S. and allied aircraft flying lawfully in international airspace. We will support our allies and partners as they defend themselves against coercion and bullying. To be clear, we do not seek conflict or confrontation.
To truly avoid these incidents, the best way is for countries, especially naval vessels and fighter jets of countries, not to take closing actions around other countries' territorial sea and airspace. To put it your way, mind your own business and take good care of your own people.
Lee had refused Austin's requests to meet at the summit. While China's defense minister essentially told the U.S. to pack up and go home, it was China earlier this year that sailed a spy balloon across the United States and Canada, gathering information on, among other things, U.S. military sites. Lawmakers say China has gone too far.
You get this sort of sense of permissiveness that I think the administration needs to step up and make clear that China has identified itself as an adversary and we're going to treat it as such.
Beijing has for years pushed back on the United States' support of Taiwan, taking public offense at U.S. lawmakers welcoming the island's leaders, like House Speaker Kevin McCarthy recently did in California. The U.S. Department of State calls Taiwan a key partner in the region. China views the self-governing island as a renegade province. Arash Arabasadi, VOA News.
We want to thank our Africa 54 viewers around the world for joining us live Monday to Friday and also on our digital platform at voanews.com. And that's our show for today. Be sure to join us again on Africa 54 and watch us on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.
The Amhara tribe are one of the two largest ethno-linguistic groups in Ethiopia. They constitute more than one-fourth of the country's population. The Amharic language is an Afro-Asiatic language belonging to the Southwest Semitic group. The Amhara long dominated the history of their country. Amharic was the official language of Ethiopia until the 1990s, and it remains important till date. Traditionally, Amhara's social structure was dominated by strong personalized ties between patrons and clients, superiors and inferiors. Generally, a man's importance was in direct proportion to the amount of land he owned. A man of wealth who owned no land, such as a merchant, had no influence. Even in family life, all privileges and authority developed from the patriarch. Descent is reckoned among the Amhara people patrilineally. The traditional Amhara is built of stone or wattle and daub. The term gogo refers to less prestigious hut or house and is associated with young couples or poor people's dwellings. The round house with its conical grass roofs topped with an earthenware dome provides maximum protection from wind and rain. The Amhara tribe practice 3 types of marriages: Kalgidan, Gurban and Damos. Kalgidan, also called Sirat or Samaya, is marriage by civil contract. It is by far the most common form, though a great percentage of such unions end in divorce. The Kurba marriages are performed in church and are regarded as sacred. Here, no divorce is possible. Widows and widowers may, however, remarry, except for priests who are expected to become monks. It is the only type of wedlock into which Orthodox priests may enter. Because of these restrictions, it is the least common form of marital union. The third type of marriage with the lowest status is the damos. It is an arrangement by which the woman is paid to be a temporary wife, most often for a period of 1 or 2 months. While the woman in a damos relationship receives no claim to the estate of her transit husband, children born under such unions are considered legitimate. The traditional age of a girl at the first marriage may be as young as 14. To protect her virginity and to enable